Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video on the Gooners and Gloves Podcast channel. In today's video, it's going to be the 84th Gooners and Gloves Podcast, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts and reactions to the potential transfer of Rodrygo from Real Madrid to Arsenal. Obviously, it's very early days. I'm not in any way saying that it's definitely happening or, that it's got a here we go, that it's, negotiations are massively progressing. Like, please don't interpret this video to be like that because that's not what I'm saying. Obviously, I don't know, but right now, it's very early days. As far as I'm aware, we're only really just starting the process of reaching out to Real Madrid, so I want to make it clear I'm not saying in any way that this is finished or close to being finished or anything like that. This is just me giving my thoughts on it if it was to happen. So imagine an imaginary scenario where it has happened. He's an Arsenal player. Basically, I'm just giving my thoughts on what I think, basically what I would think of the transfer if he was to come to us, what I think he could add to the team, what I think he could bring to the Premier League, etc. So that's what this video is going to be. Obviously, there are a few developments that have been happening which I'll talk about, but again, these are just reports. I'm not saying they're definitely true. I'm just kind of saying what's been in the news cycle recently. Obviously, we know that Rodrygo seems to be Arteta's top target. Arteta really is a massive fan of Rodrygo. As we know, he's spoken very highly of him and does believe that he would be an absolute superstar at Arsenal. Of course, the left winger is a highly spoken about position among the Arsenal fan base. We seem pretty unanimously to agree that we should buy a left winger. Is what everybody seems to believe, and of course a world-class one. And to be fair, Rodrygo absolutely is world-class. There's no question about that. Rodrygo is a fantastic player. He's a huge talent. He's a baller. Multiple time Champions League winner, La Liga. He's done it all really. He's won loads of trophies. He of course plays for the biggest club in the world and has done for years. He obviously has been really good for Brazil, at the World Cup, etc. So a very good player, no questions about that. Arteta is a massive admirer of him and has pretty much made him the top target of Arsenal this summer, obviously outside of the strikers, which, at this point, is such an ongoing saga in itself that I don't even know if I want to get into it, but really outside of, Victor Gyökeres, Sesko, etc., Rodrygo does seem to pretty much be the top target for Arteta this summer. Arteta rates him massively, and to be honest, I don't know if I've seen Arteta want a player this much, really since Declan Rice, of course, if we all remember the Declan Rice transfer saga, where Mikel Arteta was very desperate to get Declan Rice, and even, spent big, he spent big to get him, and of course we know how fantastic Declan Rice has been for us ever since then. So the question is, will it be a similar story with Rodrygo? Will Arteta spend big to get his man? We know that he really wants Rodrygo, he really rates him. In terms of the things that are fueling the speculation of this actually happening at present, aside from obviously Arteta himself wanting him, firstly, as we know, Rodrygo prefers to play on the left. That's always been his preference and he's made that clear. However, at Real Madrid, he has been, at least according to reports, frustrated at the fact that he hasn't really been played on the left. Obviously, there's Vinicius Jr., there's Kylian Mbappe. Real Madrid actually just signed Mastantuono, sorry, it's really hard to say his name, Mastantuono, who will be joining in August, who can also play on the left. So for that reason, the window of opportunity for Rodrygo to be a starter on the left is starting to reduce at Real Madrid. Also in the Club World Cup, as we've been seeing, in the first game, he only played around 65 minutes, got taken off, didn't start on the left, by the way, that was Vinicius. So we know that he clearly doesn't seem to be first choice on the left, and it got even worse in the second game as he didn't even start at all. He was left on the bench the whole game, didn't come off. It was Güler who started ahead of him. Now, don't get me wrong, these are just 2 games, so I'm obviously not saying automatically that definitely means that he isn't, favoured, but it clearly does show that what he wants, the left winger, it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen under Xabi Alonso. It doesn't seem like he's going to be a consistent starter on the left. As I said, Mbappe, Vinicius Jr., Mastantuono, it's really not good for him, and yeah, it just shows that it's going to be really difficult for him to establish himself as a first choice starter on the left. Whereas at Arsenal, on the other hand, obviously he would absolutely get the minutes that he desires on the left. Whether we do or don't keep Gabriel Martinelli, which by the way I'll get into in a second, because I'll get into those reports in a second, but I feel like you'd imagine that even whether Martinelli is at Arsenal or isn't when Rodrygo comes in, you'd imagine that Rodrygo would still start first, I would guess. I would guess that Rodrygo would start over Gabriel Martinelli, and Gabriel Martinelli probably rotated in as good backup. That's what I would think. Obviously, you never know, but I would imagine that if Rodrygo's coming in, regardless of who it is, you would imagine that Rodrygo would be first choice, and obviously he would absolutely get to play on the left. So that's definitely something big. There's no disputing that at Real Madrid he just isn't getting the minutes that he wants on the left, and there's no denying that at Arsenal he would have loads and loads of minutes on the left. He would be first choice and obviously would be able to play alongside Bukayo Saka on the right. So that's definitely something to take into account, and that's pretty much been one of the biggest talking points behind why this transfer sale could become possible and why Real Madrid could become open to selling. It just doesn't seem like they can give him the minutes on the left that he craves, and obviously at Arsenal he would absolutely get those minutes, there's no question about that, and would be an absolute superstar. So That's certainly something. Now on to Gabriel Martinelli. There have been reports, and again, we don't know how true these are, but to be fair, there have been quite a lot of reports, and it's starting to seem like maybe it is true. It seems like Bayern Munich are interested in Gabriel Martinelli and have, from what we can tell, inquired about him to Arsenal. Now, obviously, there's no denying I'd be absolutely gutted if we sold Martinelli. Obviously, I'm such a massive fan of Martinelli. He's such a fan favourite, and he's such a great player. But those talks are starting to intensify, the potential of him being sold to Bayern Munich, and of course, this is what's fueling people's speculation that maybe he could be sold in order to help finance the Rodrygo deal. Now, in fairness, Arsenal are in a really good financial position, so to be fair, I think that they could probably afford to keep Martinelli and buy Rodrygo, but of course there are people who feel that maybe Arsenal can't and therefore would sell Martinelli in order to get Rodrygo, so that's something that a lot of people are saying. Personally, I think we're fine from a financial perspective. PSR were okay, FFP were fine. The Martin Zubimendi deal, obviously, by the way, I'll be hopefully as soon as that t-shirt announcement happens, I'll make a video on him. Obviously, I made a video on him back when it was a Here We Go, but hopefully I will be able to make a t-shirt announcement video of Martin Zubimendi when it happens. So even though he is an Arsenal player now and we're just waiting for the 1st of July, I will make a video as soon as he's holding up a shirt. That's what I mean by t-shirt announcement. As soon as he's holding up an Arsenal t-shirt, I will make another video about Martin Zubimendi. Anyway, sorry, got a bit off topic there, but the reason I brought up Zubimendi is because that's something else that's going to help with PSR, because obviously we're only going to pay in installments now. So for that reason, in terms of this season, we're not going to be outgoing very much money for him. So personally, I don't think it's absolutely necessary to sell Gabriel Martinelli to finance the Rodrygo deal, because personally I do think that we could afford Rodrygo regardless. But those are kind of the key news cycle developments. So essentially the main things to be aware of: Rodrygo is currently unhappy at his lack of minutes on the left under Real Madrid, under Xabi Alonso, and he was certainly unhappy under Carlo Ancelotti as well. So that's the first big news, is that currently he's not getting the minutes that he wants on the left and could therefore potentially consider a move away, and Real Madrid could obviously consider a sale because of that. Secondly, we've seen in the Club World Cup he hasn't been getting the minutes. Now obviously I don't know what's going to happen in tomorrow's game. At the time of recording, it's still several days before Real Madrid play their 3rd game, so maybe he'll start then, we don't know. But as of the first 2 games, he started the first one on the right, not on the left, came off after 65 minutes, and he didn't start at all or even play in the 2nd game. And again, there were people like Vinicius and Gula getting picked ahead of him. So that's the other big news. And then of course, as mentioned before, Bayern Munich are currently interested in Gabriel Martinelli, and there are some speculations that maybe Martinelli could get sold in order to bring in Rodrygo. So those are kind of the key actual news cycle updates about this. Now I'm going to go over just kind of my thoughts on if Rodrygo was to be an Arsenal player. And obviously, guys, I'd be buzzing. I mean, Rodrygo is a fantastic player. I rate him massively. I really, really do rate him. And I'd be so happy if he was to be at Arsenal. As I said before, personally, I don't think we need to sell Gabriel Martinelli. And I hope we don't, because I'm a massive fan of Gabriel Martinelli. And in my opinion, we can afford to keep both of them. And, if we were to sell Gabriel Martinelli and bring in Rodrygo, well, then we wouldn't really have much left wing coverage. I guess there's Trossard, but, I think it'd be good, but obviously, end of the day, it's not my choice. But yeah, and I'm just a massive fan of Martinelli, guys. I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. I mean, I feel like the whole fan base is. He's a huge fan favorite, and it would just be really sad to see him go. Hopefully, though, if he was to go, at the very least, we got a really high fee on him, because end of the day, we need to be charging a good amount of money, because Gabriel Martinelli is a fantastic player. But anyway, so let's get into how I would feel about Rodrygo at Arsenal. So as mentioned, I'd be absolutely buzzing. I think he's a fantastic player. He's got so much quality, and just seeing him up front on that left would be so good. Obviously, he's an excellent player, so it'd be really, really good. One thing I forgot to mention is that it seems like potentially Real Madrid have kind of determined what price they'd be willing to let Rodrygo go for. So according to reports today, Rodrygo, it sounds like Real Madrid will be asking for around £77 million, which is 90 million euros, which, in fairness, I will say isn't actually that bad. I do think Arsenal could afford that for sure. I do think Arsenal could afford that. I mean, remember, Rodrygo is a world-class player. There's no question. He's a world-class left winger. He's won many trophies. He's obviously, consistently plays for Real Madrid and Brazil. Like, clearly, he's never going to be cheap. He's never going to be cheap. But I think £77 million is fairly reasonable. Of course, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong. It's not cheap. And his wage demands are something else, which would be very high. But to be fair, considering how world-class he is and how good of a player he is, I do think that 77 million, while expensive, is also fairly reasonable, if you get what I mean. Obviously, from a football perspective, that is. I don't want to make it sound like from a real life perspective. Obviously, I'm referring to from a football perspective, but I do think 77 million euros from a football perspective, pounds from a football perspective, given how good he is and, his quality and the trophies he's won and the fact that he's obviously being sold by Real Madrid, I do think that that is a reasonable deal that Arsenal could afford. I think from a financial perspective, Arsenal could pay that, and from a wage perspective, obviously it'd be a bit tougher, but again, I do think Arsenal could work something out. So for that reason, I do think from a financial perspective, the deal would be possible. Obviously, it would be a very lengthy deal. If it was to happen, you'd imagine that this would probably go on until about late July, early, at the very earliest, late July. I'm getting mixed up. At the absolute earliest, late July is when this would happen. But chances are a saga like this would probably drag on to August, I think. So even if it was to happen, we probably wouldn't expect to see it happen till about August or so. Like, this would not be a quick transfer. Obviously, it'd be a really, really long and drawn out process, I think. But yeah, from a financial perspective, I think Arsenal can afford it. 77 million is definitely reasonable for a player of Rodrygo's quality. Rodrygo, I think, would have instant impact. I think he'd be so good on that left. And obviously up front with Bukayo Saka and either Benjamin Šeško or Viktor Gyökeres, depending on which one we buy. I think that would be a very lethal front three and would finally bring Arsenal to being a very good attacking team, which of course we all dream of and we all absolutely want. So from that perspective, from a financial perspective, I think it's definitely a viable deal. I think Arsenal could pull it off. In terms of the actual Premier League himself, I think he'd fit our system really, really well. Obviously, he's very relentless. He runs a lot. He makes great passes. He's a really good dribbler. I think the dribbling is absolutely fantastic. He's really, really good on the ball. Gabriel Martinelli is definitely not a bad dribbler. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's a solid dribbler as well. But I do think Rodrygo just has that flair, that elegance, that quality that would really help him beat Premier League defenders and would be able to get the ball into the box for, Šeško, Gyökeres, Havertz, Saka, whoever it may be. So I think his flair and his quality would absolutely really help in the Premier League, especially against the very tough, left and right backs of the Premier League. Obviously, we've seen some really good ones over the years, and obviously there's a couple that have even come in as well. So definitely the defenders aren't getting any easier on the Premier League. So obviously having someone of Rodrygo's quality, just, going down the wing, beating them, pinging balls across would be fantastic. We know that Rodrygo's also a really good crosser of the ball. Rodrygo's really, really good at crossing, and we know that Arsenal obviously loves crosses, loves set pieces, etc. And I think that Rodrygo would be so good at those. So that's another reason why I would really like this transfer, because Rodrygo is so good at crossing. He's so good at, pinging the ball across. And, Arsenal is obviously a team which loves set pieces, loves crosses, loves the ping, and essentially just loves scoring from obviously cross balls. And I think that Rodrygo going down that left wing, crossing the ball in for, Šeško, Gyökeres, Gabriel, whoever it may be, I think that would just be so good and would lead to a lot of goals. Obviously, we'd probably see him, you'd imagine we'll probably see Rodrygo on some set pieces. You'd imagine he'd probably take over corner duties from Rice, I would guess. Maybe free kicks, you never know. I mean, he's a very solid set piece taker. So I think for those, those are definitely some reasons why I think Rodrygo would be so good at Arsenal. He's got the quality, the flair, the ball carrying, the dribbling. He's got all these different things, plus obviously the set pieces, the crosses, the free kicks. He just has a lot to his game, which I think would really help Arsenal. He of course fits Arsenal's system really well, high pressing and really keeping control of the ball, keeping possession, high pressing, loads of passes. I think he really fits Arteta's and Arsenal's system, and I think for that reason he would really slot in very nicely. As mentioned before, he's already proven in a very tough league. La Liga is of course not an easy league to play for, and not to mention playing for the biggest club in the world, Real Madrid. Being able to do it over there certainly is very helpful. Brazil as well, of course. Brazil, a very tough national team to play for with loads of talented players, so he's already proven himself to be an absolute talent. So I have absolutely no doubt that he'd be able to replicate it in the Premier League. He's done it in the Champions League. He's done it in the important moments. But not only that, but Rodrygo is also someone, and another reason why I'd be really happy with the signing is because Rodrygo is someone who's so good at scoring like very crucial goals, very important, very crucial goals that have to happen. He's just so good at that. I mean, a couple of examples against Manchester City. First of all, of course, the legendary Bernabeu game where Real Madrid were 2 goals down with, I think, about 5 minutes to go, and then Rodrygo turned up, scored 2 goals, equalised the game, and obviously Real Madrid went on to win and then go to the final against Liverpool, which they won. Another one against City was in 23-24 when they were heading to the Etihad and the game was drawn. So obviously the game was in the balance at the Etihad, but because Real Madrid were very much looking to go to penalties, they knew that they needed, either to score or to hold on to the ball, and Rodrygo did exactly that. He was able to get the goal at the Etihad, which then gave Real Madrid the inspiration to hold out, go for the draw, get the penalties, and ultimately go through to the next round. So he's just someone who really knows how to score in very crucial situations. He knows how to, handle that pressure and ultimately how to score a goal when you absolutely need a goal. He's done it before for Brazil, for Real Madrid, in the big games, Copa del Rey, La Liga, Champions League, you name it, he's done it. So for that reason, I think he'd also be so good at Arsenal. Obviously, we know last season there were multiple, so many instances where we just needed that goal. It was really crucial. We needed a goal. We needed to make something happen and ultimately just weren't able to pull the plug. Well, I think someone like Rodrygo Rodrygo at the club would really, really help Arsenal to get through those moments, get through those, difficult, challenging times. And as mentioned before, he could obviously link up with the likes of Gyökeres, Sesko, Saka, whoever it may be. It's really hard for me to say what striker he'd have next to him because we still don't know, because the Arsenal striker saga seems to just be the never-ending saga. But yeah, still, I think those are the qualities. So some of the key things I really like about Rodrygo, and some of the key reasons why I think he'd be fantastic for Arsenal: his crossing, his dribbling, his flair, his elegance, his ability to, win one-on-ones, beat defenders, get the ball back, cross it into the box. He fits really well into Arsenal's system. Obviously, presses a lot and goes very high up the pitch, dribbles, flair, passes the ball across, just really, really helps to, really meets that like high possession, high aggressiveness style that Mikel Arteta, of course, loves to implement. He'd be really good on set pieces, be really good at crosses. He, of course, is really good at getting into the box and making things happen. His creativity is absolutely phenomenal. He creates loads of big chances. There's no doubt about that. His creativity is excellent. And as mentioned before, another reason would be because he really knows how to, he's basically a clutch player. He really knows how to score in those very, very crucial, very important games. Maybe Arsenal are just training in the title race and are drawing a game that they have to win. Rodrygo can come on and make that happen, or if he's already started, he can really just make something happen. So those are the key reasons why I think this would be a fantastic transfer, why I would, of course, absolutely love it. Now that Nico Williams is looking pretty much certain that he's going to Barcelona, I think now is the time for us to really try and jump on Rodrygo. He's a world-class winger, and I just think this is such a good opportunity. But at the same time, I fully agree that it's in the early stages. It's nowhere near being finished or negotiated or anything. We really need to try and make this happen, but it's a fantastic deal. He's a fantastic player, and I'd be really, really happy. And again, the key reasons why are: it's financially viable, he fits our system well, he plays very well, he's got great flair, great passes, really good dribbling, great at set pieces, great at crossing and free kicks, a clutch player, really knows how to score in those important moments, and ultimately is proven in a very tough league, La Liga, Brazil. He's already proven that he can do it. He's done it in the Champions League, he's done it against Premier League teams in the past, so there's no denying he absolutely can do it against Premier League teams. So yeah, anyway, that was a lot of talking, but I really enjoyed it. It was really cool just kind of giving my thoughts on this. So hopefully in the future I can make videos about it when it's like more concrete and stuff, and hopefully that will be the case. As mentioned before, I'm hoping to start getting some Arsenal videos out once deals are over the line. It's sounding like it's very likely that Martin Zubimendi and Kepa will be announced next week. Obviously, Martin Zubimendi is an Arsenal player right now. The only reason he's not been announced is because we're waiting for July 1st due to PSR on Real Sociedad's side, but he's come to London, he's done his medical, he's signed everything. There's absolutely no more questions about him being an Arsenal player. He will take the number 36. I just personally want to wait until he's done the t-shirt announcement before I make a video on it, but you can consider him an Arsenal player. And Kepa Arrizabalaga is soon to follow as well. So hopefully we can really start getting deals over the line, and hopefully finally we can get a striker deal over the line so I can make a video for you guys talking about whatever striker we signed. There's been so many different twists and turns, it's unbelievable. One day it's Sesko, one day it's Gyökeres, and it's just a crazy saga. But anyway, that's all for another day, but I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed filming it for you guys. So all in all, I'd be really happy with Rodrygo at Arsenal. I think if it was to be 77 million, while it's expensive, while it's not cheap by any means, I do think it's affordable and something that Arsenal would be willing to pay, especially with how much Arteta wants Rodrygo. As mentioned before, Arteta's already proven with Declan Rice that when he really wants a player, he will pay big and he will get his man. And hopefully he does that with Rodrygo, especially now that Nico Williams is going to Barcelona. Really, it's Rodrygo who is the world-class winger available, or sorry, not yet available on the market, but hopefully soon to be available on the market. But anyway, that was a lot of talking, but I really did enjoy filming that for you guys. Thank you so much. I will be trying to make some more of these about like just potential signings. As I said, I don't want to make videos talking about like making exclusive videos talking about like news stories and reports, just because ultimately I don't know if they're true or not. I think these sorts of videos where I kind of just give my thoughts on a transfer if it was to happen are a lot better. And as obviously I still threw in some reports in here, but I made it very clear I don't know if they're true. They're just reports. Obviously they could or couldn't be true, but I still wanted to mention them to help the context of this video. But hopefully I can make some more of these videos soon. Obviously we've got plenty of other targets that we're looking at, loads and loads going on. So hopefully Martin Zubimendi's announcement, whenever that may be, hopefully once that announcement is through the line and he officially is an Arsenal player, hopefully at that point is when the snowball starts and we get loads and loads of updates in the transfer window. Obviously it's a crucial time for Arsenal right now. Pre-season is only a month away. Training at London Colney only starts in around a week, so it's a very important time for Arsenal for them to be getting deals over the line, and hopefully we can start start to see some progress on Rodrygo to Arsenal, because it'd be a fantastic signing and I'd love to see him at Arsenal. But anyway, that's going to go on and do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please let me know down below what you think about Rodrygo. Do you want Arsenal to buy Rodrygo? Do you think Rodrygo is worth the money? Should Arsenal buy him? How good is he, and how good could he be in an Arsenal shirt? And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll catch you guys with another podcast soon. Bye bye.